of tactics from these solo reports, indeed. Alright, let's get this going. Welcome to my report for a variant game of Final Fantasy V. Before you continue here, it would be a great idea to read through Sola's site, which has way more better Final Fantasy V variant content than this one. So Sola played a whole lot of Final Fantasy V, each time using a single solo character restricted to a single job class. At last count, he was up to 17 solos completed, missing the Red Mage, White Mage, Geomancer, Berserker and Mime. The White Mage is certainly the most epic challenge waiting to happen, but after a gap of a year and an addiction to League of Legends, Sola may never get there. He also never delivered on the same promise for Final Fantasy I. Check the end of Blake's report. I apologize deeply for stealing Sola's thunder, but the adventure of the solo White Mage must be written for the world. And here we go. I hope you can kind of see the images too there. So, first things first though, I want to use Yagamoth/Kara as my solo character. This may sound odd, but hear me out. It's all about the stats. Yagamoth has high vitality and strength, which is what we need for the first half of the game with the White Mage's weak physical attack. But we need neither stat in the late game post for Holy. For vitality, just add levels for HP. And what we need is agility and magic power, so Kara is our girl. As with Arilon the dancer, who was actually Ferris, I named the lead character White and pretended it applied to Yagamoth and Kara. This will also run into some gender confusion. White will be male for the first half of this report and then female. That's oddly appropriate. The sex of the Final Fantasy I White Mage has been hotly debated topic for 20 years now. Of course, Yagamoth leaves the party briefly for the last 3 mini-bosses fight in the first world. I could do what Arilon did for the Einstein fight when Ferris is missing, let the dead characters use whatever just to get past it. But that's not quite fair. The Purevolos in particular are one gigantic obstacle for a White Mage and deserve to be beat head on. Not using a rules loophole to get chill toes or something. That fight needs to be beaten properly by the variant challenge. So I will be briefly use Bart as a second solo White Mage for that. Finally, I will send these two solo White Mages up each side of Fork Tower later. So in this way, every single fight in the game, even Yagamoth's brief solo at the start of World 2, will be beaten by a lone White Mage. Also, by the way, I'm going to let Yagamoth die on purpose here, in case you're wondering. Images are fine? Excellent. Alright. Since White Mage is one of the startings at shop, it doesn't seem necessary to use a cheat code to unlock them. Rather, I had White fight through the Wind Shrine as if he were a White Mage, equipping a staff, weapon, bought-in tool, only light armor. White actually got wiped a few times to Moldwind enemies, casting air for 80 damage, more than his HP total until he added a few levels. That was my last Onyx. So, here you can see him fight the Wing Raptor. At least Wing Raptor wasn't hard, with enough time to heal the cure spells during his rest periods. Well, cure spells like potions. Yeah, like that was going to work. It seems I never properly understood the Carla boss fight from Sola's reports. There's more to the danger than just the combination of tail screw, drops HP to a single digit, and a physical attack. You also die from a simple accumulation of physical hits without tail screw. White magic curing was not enough. White's cure spells only healed for about 100 HP at a time, barely more than a potion. So the answer to that is farming elixirs in the Wind Shrine and also adding levels to simply have more life. And how about the offensive game plan? The staff weapon is basically an axe, using the same formula according to the algorithm described. Attack is anywhere from 0.5 times to 1.5 times the stated value of 9. Of course that is an odd number, so it loses out to... In Tetris truncation and rolls of damage values from 4 to 13 rather than 4.5 to 13.5. The multiplier for most weapon attacks is strength times level divided by 128 plus 2. Yagamoth as a White Mage has strength of 20, so he adds a multiplier of levels at level 7, 13 and the next one is 20. So I found elixirs with a targeted total of 10, since I seem to remember one of those solos, Horazon the Summoner, needing 9. 9 elixirs came in a reasonable time, but the 10th took forever to drop. I went through at least 20 fights against 3 mold winds before it did. Odds of at least 1 elixir in each such fight are 1 minus 15 divided by 16. I don't know what you call that in English. That whole thing times 3, or 3 times, equals 18%. This took White all the way to level 18, where I briefly tried Carla boss a few more times, but then decided to just go to 20 for the attack multiplier. There's White using his newfound ability to deal 5 times the damage. Also, that meant all the damage numbers were incremented of 5, making it easy to add up the damage in my head. Yes, I micromanage everything. And on about the 20th try at level 20, everything went my way and White avoided all the tailscrew combos and pulled it off. Siren was an easy hit. Hit her with cure spells during her undead form and White's own self with cure spells otherwise. White made a critical pickup in Carbon Pound in the armor spell. Physical damage halved for the exorbitant price of 4 MP. White would use that spell in just about every fight ever. Against Magisa, the North Mountain, I tried to outrace her drain spells. Cures were not enough, so White lit into her with the full might power of the staff, still hitting for 40 damage average and 65 maximum. And spent an elixir for healing. Still, that barely stayed ahead of the damage race. Come on, fight. Until Magisa suddenly ran out of her 200 magic points. Now the fight was easy as she wasted all her turns doing nothing. Forza showed up, White moved up to the back row and tried the attacks for a long time, slipping in the cure about every third round. The battle took probably 100 rounds of combat with White poking for 16 damage at a time and missing frequently, but White was in no danger and won easily. Finished with 4 MP remaining but didn't need any second elixir. With the Wind Drake in tow, White triumphantly flew to Castle Tycoon to collect the lifeblood item for this variant in the healing staff. This weapon led to retrieving the elf cave from the castle wall's basement. Against the Garkimazra enemies, just continually heal until he managed to run. And both items together made the Garula fight easy. Armor spells on, White easily outraced Garula's damage with the staff and won in about another 100 rounds of combat. So let me drink something real quick and also catch up on chat a little. Oh yeah, I just realized you cannot actually see all the way down here, can you? Let me try to do this. Thank you for the heads up. So this way I will actually have the proper scaling myself. And will know what you see, so to speak. So why did he want Yagamoth to die? So the experience is focused on the other 3 characters. No flailing and silences. Not yet. Not quite in bed yet. Fired up chat once again to say, in English math is called the power of, to the power of 3. Thank you, Somniferum. Take care. Alright, let's continue with the White Mage report. So yeah, he just defeated Garula, which is the elephant type of thing, in case you don't remember that one. And in Karnak... Oh, we just had that one too. Whatever, I'm just going to read the entire paragraph. And in Karnak, White bought his other lifeblood item, the flail weapon. And this little stick would be the only melee weapon White could use until we pick up the morning star in the far, far away forest of Moor. It behaves as an axe. It rolls random attack values from 0.5 to 1.5 times the stated value of 16. It has an inaccuracy rating of 70% and it pierces enemy physical defense to a quarter of the original value. It also deals full damage from the back row. I have to wonder if the designers actually anticipated the White Mage solo challenge with this weapon. It's just barely enough to kill things, and the key point being its ability to pierce defense, without which it could never damage many enemies at all. Incidentally, there is no mithril staff weapon with 19 attack as listed in the algorithm's guide. It exists in the code and can be hacked in, but there's no such source of one in the actual game. The next boss, Liquid Flame, followed the same script. Like Ring Raptor, this boss gives you plenty of time for healing when it shifts into a form that doesn't attack. It heals itself with fire too, and I was worried that White would never be able to outrace that, but its total of just 50 MPs burns out quickly. White had unlimited healing again with the staff during the tornado form, and one with no danger after that. You guessed it, about 100 rounds. So this is really a true test of patience, it seems. But the escape from Karnak posed a problem. The fastest White Mage could win any fight was more than 2 minutes, plus the boss fight would need a lot of time. I risked looting only one chest, the Izuna/heal spell. It was sad to leave behind a ribbon, guardian dagger and an elf cave, but White already had one of the latter and could never use the other two. White spent 3 minutes fighting for the heal spell and 5 fighting the boss, but won and escaped. But that was just the escape from the Castle of Fire. Or well, after it fought fire. The next boss battle was Ifrit in the library. Unlike the last few bosses, White could not outcure him endlessly. His special fight attack was a chance to inflict paralyzation, and he could launch enough fire twos to kill White during the paralysis. But White had an answer. The Confuse spell works on Ifrit. He heals himself with fire spell, but at least that was much faster and safer way to run him out of MP. Also, he apparently can cast Fire 3 when confused, which is really strange and not listed in the algorithm's guide, but fine by me, and as that depletes his magic 3 times faster. He can cast Fire 3 on himself, Ifrit that is. So yeah, some enemies weirdly have some spells that are way higher level or really really strong, but they only use when they're confused on themselves. It's kind of strange. Oh yeah, hashtag blame is the challenge. It's all berserkers. Alrighty, there we go. White kept using Confuse even after that. Having Ifrit hit himself for 120 was still safer than attacking with the flail. White needed 1 elixir to refill on magic, but eventually got past Ifrit on the first try. No problem. And here is Biblos, the eternal roadblock of low offense characters. White would do his battle just by borrowing from the tactics of Spoony the Bard and Chessie the Thief. By the way, those are all other solo White Mage solo character challenges. So Spoony the Bard and Chessie the Thief are also quite interesting reads, I believe by Sola. These 3 characters all stood no chance of winning low offense before Sonic Wave hit, or of overcoming his 160 hit point range spells. before Sonic Wave hit or... What? Wait, hang on, wait. I missed that thing. These... Oh, there we go. These three characters all stood no chance of winning through offense before Sonic Wave hit or overcoming his 160-point drain spells. White would have to grind through the entire battle reduced to level 1 by Sonic Wave. Fortunately, the healing stuff still works pretty okay, even reduced to level 1. The multiplier for magic spells is always at least 4 times even at level 1. So its cure 2 would always heal at least 45 times 4 equals 180 life. White couldn't hide until Biblos ran out of MP, but he had a trio of advantages that were virtually as good. The healing stuff, the armor spell, and the back row OK weapon. This wasn't quite perfect protection. Biblos could take him out by rolling a confuse spell followed by 3 straight wind slash attacks. An air elemental spell for a little over 200 damage, with White failing to hit himself out of confusion 3 straight times. And the healing stuff came a bit short of undoing an entire wind slash. Still, the odds of all that happening were 1 in several thousand. But just to be sure, I pulled out and raised White level from 22 to 26 to add enough HP to 800 to survive 3 wind slashes and require Biblos to roll a 4th to kill me. A lot of enemies when confused have strange abilities, it's really fun. This is of course mostly for control, and in case of White Wind, a mighty guard for the Blue Mage. True. So, here we go. It was way too risky to try and slip in damage. The danger was getting confused while holding the flail instead of the healing staff, so White would hit and hurt himself instead of healing. So White kept the healing staff welded to his hand for 2 hours until Biblos ran out of his 1000 MP. So he fought that thing for 2 hours, until he ran out of 1000 MP. He had to suck a high potion at very low HP twice, but never had to resort to an elixir. Finally, now that White was safe with the confuse spell offline, I could carefully swap to the flail weapon and hit Biblos, whereupon I immediately smacked my head in complete stupidity. I slipped in one hit at the beginning of the battle to apply a bit of damage before Sonic Wave debuff kicked in, to which Biblos had responded with his armor spell to half his damage taken. None. That can be prevented by running him out of MP first. I actually paused the emulator overnight here and ran the numbers at work the next day. It would be faster to redo the battle, avoiding armor, than to work through it at half damage. So I did. Had to redo the battle once Biblos under 250 MP hit on a streak of wind slashes, with White failing 6 times in a row to attack himself out of confusion. Then that happened 3 more times after lengthy starts to the battle. In anger, I pulled White out again to add 2 more levels for more HP buffer room. So yeah, he just previously explained how unlikely it is for this to happen, and it seemed to happen anyways. Not enough MP in the picture. Past phase 1 again, notice White's higher HP total now. Start slipping in flail attacks as possible. The weapon dealt 12 to 44 damage. I was pleased at having correctly worked that out ahead of time, but then seeing it confirmed in the game. Flail has 16 base damage, a base attack, and rolls damage between 8 and 24 on each swing. Biblos has a 10 defense, which an axe type weapon pierces and quarters to 2. The minimum physical multiplier is 2 without armor status on the target or the back row penalty 8 to 24 minus 2 times 2 equals 12 to 14. 4. Wow, precarious situation where he has 29 HP left right there in the picture. I'm not sure you can see that properly in the picture, I just kind of hope you do. Also, I will need to go and buy some more conics, since I don't want to use a tent to revive Yagamoth. You don't mess with guys who are committed to solo challenges. Yep. It's actually kind of crazy what they, or to what length they go. Also quite amazing. I appreciate that. It's an amazing read, by the way. Each one of those solo challenges. I have not read all of them, and I still plan on doing that eventually. So yeah, just need to get a few more tonics to be able to heal my characters. I think they are sold in here. Yep, there we go. Too bad you can't buy high tonics yet, or whatever it's called in this game. 84,000. I think I'm going for 150,000, just to buy one of each rings. And then see whether we can best the sandworm later. So that's 46 elixirs to heal almost to full. You end up reading through almost / all the challenges every year for the 4th Job Fiesta. Nice. It's visible small, but if you look at it closely, you can make it out. Let me try to do something real quick here. I know you can make the images bigger. Maybe that makes it easier to see. Where was it? There it is. But yeah, those guys are crazy dedicated. It's amazing. I love when people have that much dedication and passion to pull something off like that. Freshens you up on tactics. Well, it's a good choice for that. So just in case I have some weird emulator or whatever crash, let's save. Last time I saved. Quite a jump in levels. Alrighty, let's continue this. Whoa, precarious situation when I got a little too aggressive in attacking. I used an elixir there, but 1 of 5 throughout the battle. They might not have been needed, but now I was playing it safe. Gradually I learned the written up Bibla's AI routine. The only dangerous move now was Wind Slash for 200 plus damage, which can appear on every second turn, at a 1 per chance each time. Biblos would get 2 turns, 1 Wind Slash chance between each one of White's, but on every 4th cycle he would get 3 turns, so each second iteration of his triple turn could bring 2 Wind Slashes without White acting between. I learned very accurately when to wait with the healing staff ready just before a possible Wind Slash. To keep up with the Wind Slashes and physical attacks, 75 damage, it took about 5 rounds of healing stuff for every 1 chance to attack, and about half the attacks missed between the player's inaccuracy and Biblos' 20% evade on average. Oh, on average the flail did 28 damage, so it took 128 hits to kill Biblos, about 256 swings or 1500 rounds of combat all told. That comes out to over 225,000 damage healed by the staff. So yeah, that's a lot of healing done, to say the least. And finally he managed to beat Biblos after a long and arduous battle. Yep. And appropriately enough, White mastered his job right here. I think he earned it alright. Yep, that sounds about right. Can you imagine mastering a White Mage job from Biblos at level 28? So yeah. So yes, that is over 5 hours of game time for 1 battle, and that's continuous action, no hiding. I did say I lost my sanity. Full disclosure of 2 items that could be considered minor cheating. First, I used VBA's cheat search function to find and see Biblos MP directly rather than manually track it through 1,000 spells. Second, I used its rewind function on a few occasions with a misclick to make White hit the healing staff on Biblos or the flail on himself. I didn't rewind to undo any random results or actual decisions, just misclicks. Alright, I think that is completely fair. Next, we get to the Sandworm, where we are currently with our berserkers kind of stuck. So, quick question guys, what do you think of this so far? As in, is that any interest? Would you want to read this yourself, or should I just pay more attention to the game, or the chat for that matter? Meanwhile, I'm just going through Final Fantasy V. Hey, for the first time blind, doing 4 berserkers seemed like a good idea. What? I don't think 4 berserkers blind is a good idea. I think 4 Chop Fiesta blind is a good idea actually. But 4 berserkers, I don't think so. Reminds me of the guy with the half and button press. That one level in SM64. Yes, that's amazing, I love that kind of thing. Panenkök and Panenkeok. And there are probably others as well, but that's just the most noticed one. And it's 22:20 and not tired yet. Whoever did 17 of those has to be one of the most masochistic souls on the planet. No, it's an interesting challenge. Not all of those characters have a ridiculous time like this one. Some of the other characters are actually kind of reasonable. Sure, a bit more tricky or difficult, but not too bad, I would say. The other guy who did the 17 only has Mime left and White Mage. So he's at 19 now. Yeah, I read his report on Berserker, and it's actually quite interesting. I think that might be another one we want to tackle eventually. Because at least I feel like that might be kind of appropriate to see for here. Either way, I think I'm just going to continue with the White Mage for now. Solamok is pretty solid, especially if you overload. I see, that's fair. So let's continue this. Nah, smaller images is fine. Sandworm was a non-problem. After 5 hours on the Bidless, 15 minutes on this boss was positively sprightly. So much easier when you actually have your levels. For Crayclaw, I looked up the adventures of Chessie the Thief again. Like Carlo boss, this monster can dish out instant near kill with Tailscrew, except that Crayclaw can also inflict HP leak status to make the kill truly instant. Tailscrew and the move called Slimer/Mucus in either order spells is unavoidable death. Chessie was eventually able to win through random repetition, needing to survive 18 rounds with his knife. But White would have to go much further, needing 37 hits with his inaccurate flail. Plus he didn't have the Guardian Dagger. Random repetition would not work with my lifetime, so how could White do this? So yeah, this kind of lobster type of boss, Tailscrew, in case you missed it, sets your HP to a single digit, and he has an attack that lets you, well, continuously lose HP, and you can die to this. Well, check the algorithms guide. Maybe he's not immune to a mini spell which White had just gotten. Nope, no luck. But take a page from Biblos' book, Confuse. There we go, and Crayclaw's AI recruitment Confuse played enormously to White's favor. He will only use fight. and only at 1/3 chance on it each turn, so more often than not the turn would cycle back to white to have another Confuse ready to go right away. The other great part of Confuse is that when the target eventually escapes, its action bar still gets reset, meaning more time for white to get a turn. So Crayclaw was never able to put together a lethal combo. In fact, Tailscrew never once hit. With about 8 attempts total, all missing white, Crayclaw worked through his own 2000 HP, and white won this battle on his first try with the right approach. Well, that was pretty nice that he was susceptible to Confuse, I guess. Adamant Timmy was a non-event with white armored up in the back row, taking quarter damage and easily outcuring the boss's strikes. Adamant Mini is another boss, unfortunately no picture of this one here. The Diablo 2 monster region problem works the other way too. If the monster can't outdamage the player, character's regeneration, the monster can't ever win. Yeah, that's true. After a brief try at Soul Cannon, I decided to level up White for at least one more attack multiplier at 32. He was only level 28 so far, actually lower than some of Zula's solos. Arthur the Knight had to go to 31 to beat Biblos, Spoonie the Bard to 32, Bardom the Beastmaster to 31. The easiest enemies to kill for leveling were Sandkillers in the desert of all places. Undead but not heavy, they would die quickly to the healing staff, or instantly to a race spell. White had used these to level for Biblos, but this wasn't really the best place to work. They only appear as 1 out of 4 encounter types, and often run away of their own volition. While trying different random encounter groups, White amused himself by creating some real havoc with Confuse spells on large group of enemies, which turned up a real oddity in the mechanics. The back row penalty applies twice if a monster is in the back row and attacking itself in the back row. A monster would deal a quarter damage to itself just based on where it is standing. Bizarre logic, but entirely understandable from a computer code point of view. Finally, White settled down outside Chacombe. It was the hilariousest method I've ever found of powerling. Fast too. Self-destruct. So he basically found bombs, which use self-destructs once in a while, confused them and they killed each other. Yep, that sounds about right. So, White had exactly enough gold, 50,028 for either a flame ring or an angel ring, but not both. I took a shot at the Ronka Ruins flamethrowers without a flaming to see if the purchase could be avoided, and yes, the healing staff could once again just barely overcome the monster damage rate, 150 per round versus 180 times 2 from the flame guns, with enough excess to cover the times they faster than White would act twice. White could slip in an attack on about 1 out of 10 rounds, making his win inevitable although extremely slow. Then just as I was about to go reset my flame ring to speed things up, they ran out of MP. And that was just 1 out of 4 of those encounters. I tried to beat rocket launchers the same way, keep the healing staff in hand so White would heal himself when confused, then bash when they ran dry of magic. Unfortunately, their rocket punch confusion move does not use MP, and White eventually died. White couldn't use Averland's solution of equipping a really weak weapon unable to punch through the character's own armor when confused. He still had the plain staff weapon, which is weaker than the flail, at 13 attack maximum, but he couldn't assemble 13 defense. So I rerolled each encounter until getting flamethrowers instead of those guys, which seems to be a standard procedure for most weak solos. White did need the Angel Ring for Soul Cannon. The Heal/Isuna spell can repair aging status, but it is it consumed too many turns that needed to go to other actions. It's also good simply for general use until the running shoes turn up later. A new soul cannon itself wouldn't be a problem, plenty of time to heal stuff to max. The bit attack Search Beam comes only once every 8 turns, but White couldn't get past the launchers. Their missile attack deals half of the current HP and damage, and Search Beam from the main cannon deals half of the maximum HP. No matter your current life total, 1-2 punch is a kill shot. But the 1-2 punch is a kill shot. A solo character must heal between the last missile hit before the main cannon Search Beam. Except that the missile attack is only 75% accurate, and at least on the GBA version, the screen doesn't even display any attack message when it misses. If no missile fires, you have to guess on the timing. Also, the healing staff wasn't enough. It could not heal more than half of White's maximum HP. If White was at a sliver of life after the missile attacks, which was frequent, the staff would bring him to just about 450 out of 900, leaving him to die to the Search Beam. Ironically, this didn't work because White was too high. At a level. At a lower level, max HP would scale down faster than the healing staff's power, leaving the staff able to replenish more than half or almost all of the character's HP. And Yagamoth was the wrong character here. Anybody else would have fewer HP and greater magic power. I had to resort to elixirs instead. And the algorithms guide revealed no weakness this time. The launcher and the soul cannon are immune to confuse and mini. The only 2 status ailments White could inflict. The only way out was in. I had to get very good at sensing the time interval between Soul Cannon's last message, Energy Cell 120%, and the Search Beam, and at seeing the very brief pauses when the launchers would seemingly skip a turn, in reality trying a missile attack that missed, which shows nothing on screen. It felt like playing pinball of all things, desperately batting White's life total back and forth over Oblin with a split-second timing. Most of Sola's solos could take out 800 HP launchers in a couple of attacks and eventually lock their way through. White averaged 100 damage with his flail and had to keep up the perfect elixir time for the 12 or more cycles of the main beam to get through both launchers. It took about 30 tries. A great swell of relief rose up when that second launcher finally exploded. Needed 9 elixirs total. After one launcher was gone, I could sometimes substitute the healing staff. White wasn't done yet. He still had to chew through 12,500 HP of the main cannon, but now the fight was purely deterministic and the healing staff could overcome Search Beam for an eternity. I worked out and settled into a routine where White could get 2 attacks and 3 heals to every 2 cycles of Search Beam. Kept it up and making no mistakes for 100 Search Beam cycles and claimed my victory. So yeah, solo challenges are quite the journey. Probably even more so than solo, 4 berserkers. Maybe. Depends on the character, I guess. The one positive thing... give me a second. Oh yeah, the one positive thing a solo character has is that he does not need to distribute all his experience to multiple characters. On the other hand, he also wins the battles significantly slower. Hey, Toxile, how is it in your lurking cave? Why do they keep closing those bottles that strongly? Come on. By the way, it would be nice if someone could notify me if my characters get too low on HP eventually, because I'm not always paying attention too much to the game. I just notice I need to walk left and right now. So just as a little notice. Going back to the multiplayer's conversation, hitting someone from or in the back row cuts the multiplier in half. It can actually do even less than half damage, such as if the attacker has a multiplier of 11. Using the same 11 that divides by 2, rounded down is 5, and it's getting divided in half again, that's 2. Yeah, that's actually pretty extreme. I think everything is rounded down in this game, isn't it? Pretty comfy, I'd say. How's it going? Decided to join the challenge. Nice, Toxel. Good luck on your challenge with the thief. Alright, let's get this going. He claimed his victory after a long and arduous battle. It would actually be really interesting how long it took him for this one. Oh, an hour and 40 for this battle. I've had worse. Nice. So, in the Ronka ruins came an opportunity that I had figured out some time ago and eagerly anticipated. It involved these Ghidra enemies, Hydra in the SNS translation. These foes offer White his best chance for power leveling the entire game by a huge margin. They are undead but lack the heavy flag. That means that Raise Spell could kill them instantly, but they have Reflect Walls that is to foil that. But a Phoenix Down bypasses that. You can see the little angel sprite here, and does land the instant kill. And they pay out humongous, 3108 experience, more than you get from any other random fight until mid-third world. That is actually pretty impressive to say the least. And considering he uses a Phoenix Down, any class aside from Berserker can actually use that strategy. It's pretty neat. Also, they are not always rare counters. The center section of the bottom floor by the boss and this chest has a different encounter set where the Ghidra is common. This other encounter was also very easy and worth doing for 2250 experience. White could confuse the Hydra enemy, Ayudora on the SNS, which would cast Earthquake and wreck its own team. White could also play tricks with the Mage, which could cast some nasty spells too. He felt like Barnum the Beastmaster, getting monsters to do his dirty work for him. And importantly, this chance comes right before one time I need to power level Bartz as my second solo White Mage for the 3 fights where Yagamoth will be absent. Yes, I already have my strategy for the Purea Brawlers nailed down. Level Bartz over 1500 HP, so I can take an explosion. Sorry, there's just no other way to do that. Confused don't work. I'd be dancing over the last stars tonight if it did. So I took Bartz up to level 41. By the way, Bartz is what is in my version currently called Ever. That is the main character. Galof is the one on the floor. Rena, or also Lena, is the one on the second top, and Ferriset is the one on top. So I took Bartz up to level 41 and 16,550 HP. Well, 1650 HP as a White Mage, then switch back over to Galof too. How high should I go? This is far away my best chance for a long while, and I kind of don't think there is any such thing as overlevel for a solo White Mage. I took White all the way up to level 52, adding a magic damage multiplier at 51 with healing stuff. 61 times 51 divided by 156 plus 4 equals 14.1. And attack multiplier at 52, 20 times 52 divided by 128 plus 1 equals 10.1. And magic 10 also means that all the damage numbers are multiples of 10. And this still track in my head. So, Yagathump, Greetings everybody, I don't know who hosted me. Let me actually check that real quick. So let me put this in a different place, I guess. Ah, I don't see who hosted me here. I didn't think that one through. Oops. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Continue. Mega Weasel is now hosting for a bunch of viewers. Welcome, Mega Weasels. How are you guys doing? And what were you doing, if I may ask? Let me get rid of this real quick. Weasel, you done goofed. Turning down the game's music would be a... Oh, I actually asked earlier whether the sound would be fine. And it's too loud. Thank you for the heads up. Is this better for the sound? I mean, you definitely don't need to necessarily hear the game in the background. Like a thumb. Oh well. Welcome everybody. Galuf is doing his Yagamoth impression. Which I would like to get back, but we would need to get 20 more subscribers for that. So that will take a while. Something like that, Weasel. Either way, thank you for the host and welcome everybody. So, is the sound balance now better for reading, if I may ask? But yeah, I agree. I like the music, but you don't need to hear it that strong, I guess. And to get Ramu. Well, good luck with that. Just replace the current ad. Well, you could do that. So either way, for reference guys, I'm currently just reading the solo adventures of the White Mage by T-Hawk, and I'm going to continue there in a second. We need to talk? What do we need to talk about? Good afternoon, Stradivarian, how are you doing? Whoa! Oh god, the Lazy Geek just subscribed. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lazy Geek. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. And welcome. Kind of unexpected. Thank you. I just messed up the bottom right corner again. Good job. Sorry about that. Blame this heat wave. Yeah, I can see that. Over here it's actually quite nice, not too hot, so I really appreciate that. I'm doing quite fine, yes indeed. Oh, let me check that real quick, Weasel. Those are quite interesting, actually. If anyone is wondering, who is not necessarily watching the stream. Oh, that reminds me, now I have to close and open it again. I need to take a closer look at them. Give me a second. Why does this emulator do this? That's not nice. Oh well. It's actually quite neat. But yeah, I will take a closer look at them once I have the time to do so. Whoa. Oh god. Oh dear. Thank you, Weasel. Yagamoth doesn't need experience. Yep, indeed. Wow. Holy cow. Rayquaza is now hosting you for up to 619 viewers. That's a lot of people. And wow, my text plugin, my chat plugin can't handle it. Oh dear. Thank you, Ryu, for the host. I really appreciate that. And welcome, everybody. We are currently doing a Final Fantasy V super slow playthrough in the name of the Forge of Fiesta. For people that don't know. Ryu, thank you! Thank you for supporting me for 6 romps in a row. Really appreciate that. That's a lot of people. Ryu, legend! Indeed. Thanks a ton. And Tiny Hype. Is this a weak raid? No. This is a lot of people. So yeah, welcome everybody. And a short explanation as to what we are doing here. This is Final Fantasy V, which has a unique system of many shops that you can choose between from. And there is that annually event that is called the Forge of Fiesta, which also is kind of a charity event at the same time. Basically, you can participate in this one way or another just by, well, letting the Forge of Fiesta bot assign you 4 different shop classes, which you will be completing the game with. The nice thing about this game is it actually allows you to complete the game with pretty much any class of combinations of shop classes. Oh, sorry about my Skype. And it is actually quite intriguing in how it works. So this is the more extreme end of being doable. I currently have the chops Berserker, Berserker and Berserker. The difficulty about those classes is that you cannot control them in battle, which means you cannot use any items in battle to heal them or anything like that. Also, you cannot choose your target, which is another huge issue. So, currently I'm actually just grinding and leveling up until we eventually might be able to be strong enough to beat the next boss. The issue about the next boss is it is only one of 6 targets is actually the really correct one. So it's kind of difficult for Berserkers to choose the correct target, as in 1 in 6 chance. On top of that, if they choose the wrong target, they will eat a spell that is called Demi, which reduces their HP by half. So it is, for the most part, a huge gamble on whether you're lucky enough. On the other hand, a good chunk of me wanting to, well, beat the Sandworm anyway is getting lucky enough to hit, plus also deal enough damage to kill him in as few hits as possible. So we're just leveling up here. So this is a short overview of what I'm doing here. Out of curiosity, how come you're not resting Yagamoth? Basically, the experience is distributed between all the characters that are currently in battle, and I'm trying out whether this would power level the other 3 characters quick enough to warrant having 1 character dead. Currently, I'm not entirely convinced by this, but it's just an experiment. Yes, I'm currently on the Sandworm. So, either way, since this is mostly just grinding and grinding and grinding, we are currently reading through the adventures of a solo character challenge. So there are people that are actually even crazier than playing this game with 4 Berserkers. There are people that are playing this game with just a single solo character, and currently we are reading through the story, or well, the report of the single solo White Mage character by T-Hawk. So that is quite the adventure, as we've recently realized so far. Isn't the Sandworm 3 targets? It is actually 4 targets. 6 targets, because 2 holes for each of the spawn possibilities of the Sandworms. So it is a total of 6 possible locations where the sand... Actually more, like... Each of the possible locations has 2 different holes it can be in. So even though you cannot normally target any of the other holes, your berserkers unfortunately can target those untargetable targets. Target, target, target. So yeah, it is actually 1 in 6, not just a 1 in 3. 1 in 3 would be more reasonable. So either way, this is what we are currently doing. Alright. If you would like to listen to the full adventures, I will be making sure to, as in of the White Mage, I will make sure to highlight this entire thing separately. So yeah, he just basically defeated a previous boss and is more or less further into the game currently on his block than we are currently in. So, let me continue here reading, because why not? So after 5 hours of messing around in the Ronka ruins, White finally moved to the Archaeoevis. The first 3 forms were no problem, the healing stuff easily outpacing everything he could do. It took a good 15 minutes real time to get through these forms, but the White was never in any real danger of losing, for what would be the only time in this variant. I resorted to a safe state. It added nothing to my experience to repeat this busy work every try. So, also for reference, he is doing currently a solo White Mage challenge in this blog report. A White Mage is essentially the healing / support class of this game, and there are many other chops, and obviously they are supposed to be used in conjunction with, well, your more regular classes. But in the solo challenge, you go crazy and do a solo playthrough with just one single character with a single job, using nothing but a White Mage. Also greetings tag, and welcome everybody else. So, the 4th form could kill White, by using its claw paralyzation attack and wiping away his life with its lightning spell, which deals 1/4 of maximum HP. The only answer was Solo's unusual solo solution in the Elf Cave to attempt to dodge the claw. Too bad White couldn't use the Guardian Dagger on top of that. The Guardian Dagger is another weapon, a dagger, more specifically, that the White Mage cannot use, and adds a parry chance to avoid any physical attacks, in case you're wondering about that. And the only way to win was to keep clobbering with the sad little flay for 100 damage per hit. This form would kill White rarely, on maybe 1 out of 4 attempts. So White got to the final form, which despite being named the undead form in most guides is not in fact undead. Cure spells don't damage it. It brings lots of nasty stuff, attacks that confuse, paralyze and maelstrom. I had to give up on the healing stuff and just keep attacking, hoping to shorten the attack at the battle and luck into winning with enough high damage hits to get enough to get through its 2500 HP. I had to rely on a better turn economy of elixirs for healing rather than the staff. For reference, elixirs heal both your HP and magic points to full, and those are usually quite expensive or hard to get items. So for a solo White Mage challenge, he had to farm quite a bit of time to get sufficient amount of those elixirs to get through. Still, that flail did just enough damage that there was hope. White's average score before dying was about 1000 damage, so just gotta keep it up a little longer. Comically, lost one try to somewhere over 1500 damage when White got confused and cast Cure 2 on the boss, twice. And then one try passed 2000 damage, then one 2400, 2490. And then 10 hit points away. Yep, he got pretty mad about this one. And RKO Ares goes Paralyzed, Confused, Maelstrom. That to a self-hit. I was so pissed and almost gave up the variant entirely here. And I would like to point out, if you have not seen the previous section of this report, he has gone through a lot of stuff already. But 2 tries later, about 20 total, everything went White's way. 20 flail hits, 6 missed Maelstroms, only 4 elixirs and 1 dead boss. I alertedly returned to the save point in the Ronka ruins and kept a separate save in another slot, in case Bart's, as my temporary soloist, needed any more leveling for the 3 meteor mini-bosses. Also unequipping everything from Yagamoth before he disappeared so Bart could use it. Manticore/Kim Brain was a joke, as always easily out-healed. So was Titan, which had me worried a bit, but healing stuff beat Earthshaker, which he really doesn't use very often anyway. Last up were the Purebollos. Purebollos are those... So let me explain real quick what the Purebollos usually do, in case you don't know the encounter. There are 6... actually no. Yes, actually it is 6 of those bomb-type enemies that explode based on how much HP they have left. And they have a 1500 maximum HP, so if they explode for maximum damage, you die in basically 1 hit. Unless you have over 1500 HP. On top of that, when you kill them with a normal hit, they, instead of just dying like any normal enemy, they would revive every single one of their allies as long as they have enough MP by casting Life 2 on all of them. So that means if you have only 1 little bomb left, you would then accidentally kill that guy just with a physical attack, and he would revive all 5 other guys just as he died, which could be quite annoying at times, as you might imagine. So back to the report. Last up were the Purebollos. The 6 set of little bombs that can blow themselves up for damage count equal to their current HP, that can't be dodged or modified, and if you kill any, it revives all of its friends with full HP. Well, that's a lot better explained than what I just did, whatever. White's only plan was simply to survive one 1500 HP explosion at a time and then heal up. It worked to perfection. White could even survive 2 explosions in the same round if he waited for a turn to use Elixir instantly between them. It only took about 5 tries to get the needed results. Any character willing to be able to up above 1500 HP can do this right this way. The last bomb went forever without blowing itself up, so White worked it down with the flail and killed it after a mute. Mute being the silence spell effect. Phew. Well, there you have it, a solo White Mage has gone all the way through the first world. Not Carlobos, nor Biblos, nor Soul Cannon, nor RKO Avis could stop White's quest. White ran one last errand to the ship graveyard to restock 20 elixirs. Grinding them from Cure Beast would be slow, and we only need elixirs as far as the utmost fight in the... Then White gets Cure 3. And on the second world. And on to the second world. So yeah, this is the adventures of the soul of White Mage. And I also like to take a break in between once in a while. How are you guys doing? Good evening, everybody. Chimera Brine is the other translation name for the folks. Oh yes, nice, you can land mute over the Forced Mage Masher proc. Oh, I didn't even realize my characters are pretty low HP at this point. Maybe I should have paid more attention. Mute was a separate... I'm pretty sure mute is just a basic silence type of effect, which can be applied in various forms. Solo Zerg was done. Well, let's put it this way, I'm not sure if it was done, I have not read anything about that, but I know it can be done because I've seen some footage of a solo berserker actually killing the final boss. And yes, it is a lot like overgrinding. You're really handsome as always. Well, that's some self-confidence right there. You're doing fine. You're doing what you're doing, grinding 4 Zerkers, though I'm not doing it for fun. Not my real run. Oh, you're doing it for fun, not your real run, that way around. Alright. I mean, I'm doing this for fun as well. I chose to get 4 Berserkers. So there's that. Could you guys eventually hit again, please? Bone Mail would almost have to be a thing given undead immunities. Still doing good, just going to kill Desert Renown by throwing rods and then calling it a night. Yeah, if you can throw rods, that makes it quite simple. Not finished on? Is it really statistically impossible? I thought I saw a video on the matter for a solo Berserker Hyrule. But yeah, I read the report on that. For anyone interested, the Forge of Fiesta. Forge of website and all information about it can be found here. I think I'm just going to use a tent to revive everybody. Greetings, Itoshiro, how are you doing? Good evening. So we have 100,000 gold already. That's pretty impressive. At least in the SNS version, the boss has 6 actual targets, 2 of which cannot be harmed or otherwise targeted except with random targeting. The Berserker can and will target those 2 quote-unquote dead targets. Yes, they do. And that is the main issue about the Sandworm fight. So, for anyone here still sticking around from Riot's raid / host, let me just demonstrate what the Sandworm fight is all about. Doing great, finished your first Forge of Fiesta run today, as well as your first time ever playing Final Fantasy V from start to finish. Oh nice, that sounds awesome. Congratulations. What chops did you get for that, Itoshira? Whoa! So yeah, my plan is to grind at least until I have 150,000 gold, so I can buy 1 of 3 resistance rings. And then I will actually seriously try to attempt to beat the Sandworm, that is. Regular random one. White Mage, White Mage, White Mage, White Mage, Monk, Chemist. Interesting. 2 White Mages. Now let me heal up really quick. Just to make sure that we have the best possible chances to actually survive this. Which I guarantee is not going to be that great. So let's just do this. And explain as we go. Here goes. The chemist basically saved you and carried the rest of the run, I can imagine. So, here is the sandworm, and here are the 4 berserkers. As mentioned, I cannot control the berserkers at all, they target everything randomly. And it just so happens that if you hit a hole on the sandworm encounter, it will counter with Demi, which reduces your HP by half. Right here. Whoop. And half of the HP gone. Just like that. On top of that, there appear only to be 3 targets. 2 holes and the sandworm, right? But unfortunately that's not quite the case. There are actually a total of 6 targets. I assume they just did some trickery with the coding and that's why they use 6 targets in this battle. But that's just kind of how it works. You can and will target the untargetable, so to speak, in this game. At least, well, berserkers will. And it just so happens that, well, you need to be really lucky to hit the sandworm, as in 1 in 6 chance, about 7 or 8 times in order for you to have a reasonable shot at killing him. Then you need to hope that the weapons actually do not miss. Because the death sickles, which have a reasonably high attack, have a bit of a decent chance to miss, on top of not hitting the right target. So yeah, so far we have not hit a single time. The sandworm himself doesn't hit too hard. On top of that, he actually... his only really damaging ability is this sandstorm, or whatever it is called. It does 60 damage to all characters. And then also uses a damage over time effect. It is not that lethal, but in conjunction with Demi, as in half your health is gone, boom, it is actually quite bad. Those circles are really blind. Something like that. I just hate the holes. Oh hey, 348 damage. Oh, and 258. Amazing. For reference, this guy has 3000 HP. So this is just a bit more than 15% of his HP gone. Something like that. Death Sickles have a base accuracy rating of 85%. Quicksand killed 3 characters. Only Yagamoth is alive. Surprise. So yeah, on one hand you need a lot of luck, but you just can kind of grind up high enough that you need not quite as much luck to actually beat this guy. At least in theory. This game looks fun. It is actually really awesome. I don't recommend doing a 4 berserker challenge, because that's just kind of unreasonable. But if you plan to play through this just as your first run with a 4-job fiesta, that might just be your thing. I actually really enjoy playing through this game the first time using the 4-job fiesta rule set challenge. Here's your chance to shine, Yagamoth. Something like that. Impromptu solo Zerker. For reference, the solo berserker had to level up to level, I believe, 73 to beat the sandworm. It's just mind-blowing. Surprise, surprise, the character you kept it for the leveling is the one who is alive the last. Indeed. Wow, and he even hits again. So yeah, you can imagine how long that took. Even with he did use fast forward on the emulator to level up that quickly, but you can imagine that this took him a long time to get through there. Yes, Itoshiro, exactly. For me, it is what would actually be quite the issue, because I'm more or less a bit of a min-max type of person, and I would kind of like to try to choose and pick my strategy, and so I would need to learn so much about all the chop classes and then balance it out, learn certain abilities from those, etc. It would be quite a nightmare for me to play this game without the 4 chop fiesta rule set. So if I can just focus on those 4 chop classes and make it work, which by the way it can make it work all the time, makes it really interesting. So it's pretty awesome. So here we go again, just a little bit more grinding. Also, be right back, I'm going to the bathroom real quick. Alrighty, I'm back. Oh, thank you, Platinum. Take care and have a safe trip home. The first real time going through this game. I thought so much stuff was really good, and ended up not learning anything good and instead got creamed by the... Yeah, I can see that, Hyrule. But yeah, that's actually the really nice thing about this game. There is no class that is too bad, so to speak. And so getting 4 different classes from the 4-chop fiesta almost guarantees that you have a reasonable time against pretty much every boss, one way or another. On my first playthrough I played with a guide, mastering chops and go freelancer in the end. Ninja for dual wielding plus quadra attack from the Rager was OP. Interesting. Oh yeah, by the way, the final boss, kind of like the Sandworm, has 2 untargetable targets, in a sense. So you need to get really lucky against the final boss too. So question, should I try to dip and dive into the Berserker solo challenge that Sola actually wrote up? Or should we continue with the White Mage for now? Sunburn done, time for you to go to bed. Alright DBD, take care and rest well. Thanks for being around. Continue and finish White Mage. Alright. I'm sort of wondering how much worse it gets for White Mage. Yeah, it's going to be quite a journey, to say the least. But actually, once he gets to a certain point, it's not going to be too bad anymore. But let's get to that. Alrighty. continuing the Solo White Mage challenge reading. So, Solo White Mage challenge, he just completed the first world. If you don't know what that means, don't worry about it. I'd actually already been thinking about these bosses of worlds 2 and 3 up to the Holy Spells and thought I had a plan for each. Let's see how it goes. First up is Gilgamesh in the basement. The algorithms guy delivered up a hilarious solution. He's vulnerable to Mini. Wow, I had actually no idea. And White was able to beat Gilgamesh on the bridge the direct way, rather than waiting for him to run out of MP to block his haste/armor slow debuff. His jump only dealt 220 damage to armored up White Mage and could be overcome with the healing staff. White worked his way through the rest of the encounters on the big bridge, You Can't Run, using mostly confuse spells. So, White happily collected the image spells and shell spells in Regal, giving him a few new options against both physical and magic attacks. Finally, the power of the White Mage began to ramp up. Everything White had ever done to this point also could have been done by one of those dilettante red mages. White would run from most random encounters on the overworld, Moogle River and Drakenvale. They could be won in the usual ways by endlessly healing or by confusing spells, just not worth the lengthy time for each. If White needs to add levels or gold, I'll find an appropriate area. For the Tyrannosaurus, White took the usual easy instant kill of a Phoenix Down against an undead enemy. The Abductor boss on exiting Bell Castle posed a problem with his vampire spell. It deals damage equal to the caster's missing HP, max minus current, and drain it into the caster. Confused could hit it, but strangely the monster did nothing at all while confused. Didn't even attack itself, just stood there forever. I don't think Sola has ever mentioned this fight in his Sola reports. Does it not happen in the SNES version? Does no class just ever have a problem with it? It could be won by running the boss out of magic, although it would take forever to run through 1000 MP 2 per cast of Vampire, which is its only MP consuming spell. So the only answer was to retry until White managed to work through the 2500 HP before Vampire hit. At least Shell status halved its chance, worked on about the 4th try. Give me a second. Just need to clean my nose real quick. Now for the hero plant in Drakenvale. The main flower does nothing by itself, but it continuously revives the 5 little flowers. They deal little damage, but their physical attacks inflict nasty status ailments of, in order left to right, confuse, paralyze, blind, poison, aging. The last 3 can be ignored or cured or prevented. Angel Ring for aging, but the first 2 are wicked dangerous in taking control away from the player. If they are ever both active at the same time, they quickly lock a solo character in an endless loop of confusion and paralyzation, and you never get another turn. So here's the general preference of plans of this fight. Blow away the boss flower outright with damage or instant kill, obviously not an option for White. Repeatedly group kill the little flowers. Great for monks and summoners, but not our hero here. 3. Get immunity to the confused flower, usually bone mail, and keep killing the paralyzed one off manually. White couldn't do that either. He couldn't wear the bone mail, and his 30% inaccurate, wildly variable flail couldn't keep any flower off the board. Disable all the little flowers with some status ailment of your own. Every status works, they have no immunities. They can be stopped, slowed, put to sleep, turned into toads and all manner of other stuff. So I thought I had this battle nailed down. The flowers can be inflicted with mini status. Mini locks its victim attack value at 3. White had more than 3 defense, so the flowers should deal 0 damage to and be prevented from inflicting their nasty status effects. Except that didn't work. It seems their specialty attack ignores defense, so they still dealt a few points of damage and the debuffs. My try was to confuse on the 2 dangerous flowers once confused. My next try was confuse on the 2 dangerous flowers. Once confused, each flower would stay so for several rounds on average, until it hit itself. With both dangerous flowers confused, White could heal himself and slip in some hits on the main boss. This worked, but not long enough. The problem was the 30% magic evade possessed by the flowers, so confuse was not fully reliable. Eventually one of them won, and then both flowers would break free of the confusion, ending the attempt. I tried adding White's newfound blink/image spell, which causes the next 2 physical attacks to miss him, but that could keep up with 5 flowers attacking, or even 3. I needed those flowers to stay confused for longer. Got it! White cast his blink spell on the confused flowers. Now they could not hit themselves. So I would like to point out, blink is a spell that just kind of makes the next 2 physical attacks miss. That's from a White Mage. And then he casted that on the flowers he needed to keep confused. That is so clever. I really love this little portion here. Carefully I focused and watched for any miss on the 2 nasty flowers, refresh and blink on immediately after. Now I could really lock those 2 flowers in confusion permanently, and White had enough turns left over to heal himself and hit the boss. It also worked out more turn and economical to also keep the blind flower in confused blink lock, rather than spending turns on eye drops. The usual 100 flail swings later, it worked. White bonked out of the remaining flowers and claimed his Dragon Grass. I was really proud of this fight. I needed almost every trick in the White's arsenal and really unconventional solution of casting a boss spell on the enemy. Now I see why Sola loves these solo challenges. They really make you think and always find new answers. Alright, and that brings us up to Gilgamesh/Enkidu fight on the ship. Some characters can blow them away immediately with damage or luck. Some have enormous trouble. Care to take a guess which category White falls in? White had virtually no chance to kill either boss before White Wind or Vampire hit to replenish them. He would have to run Enkidu out of his 1000 HP. At least White Wind is expensive. But he couldn't survive that long either without Gilgamesh Chi's near instant kill Deathclaw move hitting. Enkidu also packs a Biblos-like variety of nasty moves, Sonic Wave to half level and slowing move. However, Deathclaw was the only dangerous move in this fight. If Deathclaw never hits, I could never lose. It did seem that it hit very rarely. As near as I can figure, its chance was 66% base plus 28% for Gilgamesh's level, minus 52% for White's level. That equals 42%, off by Shell to 21% and also 10% magic evade. Deathclaw could actually appear many times without succeeding. The actual danger was after Enkidu arrived and cast his Sonic Wave to reduce White's level to where Deathclaw could hit him. So, what if he makes sure Deathclaw can't be cast after Enkidu arrives? Now the plan was to run Gilgamesh out of magic first, before Enkidu arrived. This seemed fairly unlikely to deplete Gilgamesh's 880 MP, would take over 40 castings of Deathclaw at 21 MP, and surely one of would hit, right? Well, White Man might have an answer to that too. Deathclaw isn't truly an instant kill, it drops HP to critical and paralyzes, leaving the target easy meat for killing blow. But what if Might constantly applies blink status to force that follow-up to miss? Beautiful. That claw actually never even hit once, so those blinks didn't matter. I don't know if I missed something on the magic hit formula, or if White was just really lucky. Anyway, now Gilgamesh was a zero threat. All he had left was physical hacks that dealt 40 damage versus armor status in the back row. White bonked him with the rusty flail until he summoned Enkidu. Step 2 was to run Enkidu out of magic 2. Can't risk trying to outrace him and then getting killed by a vampire for 4000 damage. White would simply have to sit there and eat the Sonic Wave and web slow moves, just like in the Biblos fight, letting his level drop to 1. White eventually very slowly lost the healing race to Enkidu's Era 2 and Wind Slash moves, so it needed an occasional elixir. But the bigger danger was Enkidu's missile spell, dealing 75% of the current HP. That required an elixir right away and happened 6 times through this phase of the battle. Another hour later, not enough MP. There we go, it's clobbering time. Well, okay, that was also going to take a little while, with 38 damage displayed there. Let me drink something real quick. Oh, Rena is pretty low HP, I didn't even realize. Alright, well okay, that was going to take a while. 6.5 hours to be precise, it took him to eventually kill Gilgamesh. Oh well. That battle also proved something else I'd wondered. It is possible to get tired and hearing the big bridge music theme. After about 2 hours I turned off the emulator sound and played my own music instead. Wow! Seriously? You can get tired of that? Blasphemy! Yep, 6.5 hours for just that one battle. You had to run out the boss out of MP. For reference, the battle where in Secret of Mana you run the enemy out of MP with the boy only takes you about 15 minutes, I think, 10 to 15 minutes. So that's a bit nicer, isn't it? Even if it can kill you rather quickly, if it actually hits. More specifically, you have a 2-frame window to open your menu for every spell cast. Either way. Moving on, left and right again. I wasn't sure whether to go for a reflect ring in the tower. White would learn the regular wall spell soon enough in Moor, but the spell would effect wear off, while the accessory is permanent. I tested the Wall Knight in counter groups, and the White Knight and White had no fast way to win them. Wall Knights are vulnerable to mini and confuse, but White had no way to sneak a spell past their walls. There wasn't anything else in the same country that was confusing, so the only way was the long, slow way of flail bashing. I tried that on one encounter just to see how long it would take, which turned out to be about 10 minutes. This could be painful. But then, that very first Wall Knight fight yielded up the prize. He got the reflect ring in the very first encounter, after 10 minutes of a random encounter battle. At least White could smash red dragons in the tower like a breeze. Shell protected against the nasty attacks and the healing staff quickly dispatched of the undead beasts. But now it's time for the mountaintop pinnacle of roadblock bosses in Yagamoth. It's all downhill from here. The remaining bosses are all answerable until the holy spell is acquired and White Mage achieves near godhood. So yeah, by the way, eventually the White Mage will get an offensive spell. A really good one, but that's not until a bit later. So Yagamoth, for people... Actually, let's see whether he explains the boss. So yeah, let me explain this boss real quick for anyone who does not know. Atomos is basically a portal type boss who has really powerful attacks. I think it costs just meteor, which does a ridiculously high amount of damage. Randomly. As in the damage is just random. And if he kills one character off, it would eventually just suck that character into his portal. As in, basically the character gets, when he is dead on the floor, gets dragged closer and closer and closer towards the portal, and eventually disappears completely from battle and he can no longer be used. So general strategy for that fight just casually is just have one character dead until he is almost sucked in, then kill off another character and revive that first character. That way he will never actually do anything except just suck those characters in. That is not necessarily an option for a solo character challenge, although since the other characters are just there dead, they will get sucked in before anything else happens. Some characters can bash through, and let's continue reading here. White couldn't possibly kill the monster before it sucked up his dead comrades and started spewing comets. Oh, it's comet. Zula's solo exception of killing off the other three characters singly does nothing for us here. It would buy White time for about maybe 1000 damage worth of attacking. For reference, that thing has about 20,000 HP, I believe. White would have to win by plowing through the comets as Chessie the Thief did. At least White gets shell status to half the damage. I made a quick test run to see how White would fare against the comets. They would average 400 damage per comet, so 533 damage per turn of Atomos. 2 separate 2 out of 3 chances of casting comet. 1600 when Atomos with his innate haste status got 3 turns in a row. Obviously way too much to outrace with a healing style, so elixirs it would have to be. So, hours of Cure Beast farming it was. So he didn't farm enough elixirs in the first world in a more convenient location. So he had to go for Cure Beasts. Yes, this was a supreme insult by the game. The White Mage, the Grandmaster of Healing Magic, has to resort to elixir farming thanks to that idiotic CZ. Damn it, CZ. Why can't we use your submarine for 2 minutes and go visit Moore to buy Cure 3? Who knows? White could easily win the Cure Beast random encounters, but it took forever. He would confuse Blink 3 to lock them down and stop them healing each other, and heal White instead for free. And start in on the 4th with the flare. The first 3 would run out of MP right around when the 4th died, and I could just hold down the attack button from there. Still took about 10 attacks per Cure Beast. This worked with 0 danger, but took forever and ever and ever. 10 minutes for every single encounter, 40 minutes per elixirs, 66 hours for 99 elixirs. I cried, uncle. I turned Yagamoth back into a bear job for the grinding. I hope this doesn't disqualify the variant in the eyes of my readers. Sorry, but at the end of the day we all have aging status and the doom clock overhead. I really can't justify wasting 60 hours on this. I should have done this level and elixir grinding in Ronka and the ship graveyard instead. I hadn't because of... At first I misread the Chessie the Thief's report. I thought he did Atomos at level 58 with 30 some elixirs. Now see, he had to go all the way to 64 at 99 elixirs. So yeah, he actually did go back to a bear shop to farm the elixirs a bit quicker, which I cannot fault him for. 66 hours for 99 elixirs? Yeah, good luck with that. Anyway, for Cure Beast farming, Yagamoth equipped the Bone Mail and Elf Cage for minimal damage taken, and the Yosefuna / Bison Katana bought in Sergate. Any available weapon would take 2 hits, about give or take 600 damage to kill a Cure Beast, except this Katana would sometimes crit and do it in 1. Now the Cure Beast encounters would be 1 in a minute each. High potions between battles were the fast and simple way to heal up. While grinding, I worked out the math for Atomos. Comet deals 50 to 200 damage. Minus White's maximum magic defense of 24, Gaia Gear Coronet Angel Ring, times 8 halved for shell, so 104 to 704 damage, 404 on average. White has agility of 25 and 11 equipment weight. After taking action, White needs 100 minus 25 plus 11 divided by 8 equals 96 ticks of each action bar to act again. Atomos had 36 speed and haste. Atomos needs 120 minus 36 divided by 2 equals 42 ticks of the action bar. Atomos gets 96 divided by 42 equals 2 and 2/7 turns for every one of White's call. It's 2.33 or 7/3 for simplicity to account for any lag in clicking. Atomos casts 4 third comets per turn on average. Multiplying everything together gives that White must heal 404 times 7 divided by 3 times 4 or 4/3 equals 1257 damage per turn to survive. So, plan A. Run Atomos out of MP. Atomos does nothing but cast Comet, so he has no other moves or physical attacks. 10,000 MP divided by 7 per Comet, 1428. If White can heal long enough to endure 1428 Comets, he clinches to victory. The healing staff averages 48 times M healing. At level 64, White's magic multiplier was 16, so he could heal 768 per round with the staff. So the Comets outrace the staff by 500 per turn on average. White has 4000 HP, so we need an elixir every 7 turns on healing. 7 turns times 7/3 Atomos turns competes in 21,777 Comets per elixir. Oh no, 21.777 Comets per elixir. 99 elixirs will last 2156 Comets, which is more than enough. Plan B, kill Atomos directly. Attacking instead of healing, White needs an elixir once every 3 turns. White gets 200 attacks before running out of 99 elixirs. Atomos defense is 14, quartered by 3 by the flail. White's damage is 8 to 24, reduced to 5 to 21, average is 13. At level 64, White's physical multiplier was 12 for average damage of 13 times 12 times 70% flail accuracy equals 109. We would need 183 attacks to make the kill. This is also within the range of White's elixir supply, but by a narrower margin. Yes, 19,997 HP. Interesting. Plan A had significantly greater margin for error, so that was the choice. It also had a better breakpoint. If more juice was ultimately needed, adding a magic healing multiplier at level 66 as opposed to a physical multiplier at 71. White shelled himself up as he watched his comrades disappear, and Atomos started shelling White with comets. White stuck to the plan, healing constantly, carefully anticipating intervals, 1 out of 3 cycles where Atomos would get 3 turns in a row. I would use the healing staff when above 1800 HP and elixir below 1400, which was the max Atomos could deal in 1 turn. Between those was an awkward zone, too risky to use the staff, a bit wasteful to use an elixir. The best move then was to pause and let Atomos get just 1 turn and burn some more comets, then use an elixir. So, close call here. White has just 49 HP left right there. I was intentionally playing a bit risky with elixirs early in the fight. If White died, I could just try again. If not, he would go get ahead and in the healing rise and be able to be more conservative later. Like in some early fights I used the emulator to spy on Atmos MP rather than manually tracking 1428 comets. So, there's proof that things... hang on. There's proof that things are going my way. White has used 20 elixirs, 20% of his total, but the boss has burned 25% of his matching. I did not spy on Atmos MP again. I was actually enjoying the suspense. White and Atmos danced this dance for an hour, and the RNG even fell into rut, where there were some very discernible patterns to the comet damage. In particular, there was one sequence where Atmos would roll 450 to 650 damage for 3 straight comets, getting me ready for a heart attack and roll exactly 160 on the last. I captured that 116 damage comet 3 times above, just to prove it. I noticed that White's action bar is nearly full each time, indicative that Atmos just had several turns. Then just like that, it was all over. So I would like to point out, he farmed 99 elixirs to be able to run him out of MP with a White Mage. $20,000 HP per tick of 7. Ooh boy. Dunk. Out of MP, and the boss could never do anything ever again. White yanked does his venerable play for the last time and made short work of the monster. Atmos defeated on the very first attempt once I had the right supplies and plan. Whew. Enormously glad White was over the Atmos mountain, and it was the last mountain indeed. It's all downhill from here. Yagamoth actually leaves the party briefly during the undersea scene where he is sulking about Caesar, which meant the entire party was dead. And he was down to 8 elixirs in the end, yep. That's some dedication. I'm just randomly using a tent here. I have not even paid attention to the HP of my characters. Also might save once in a while. Downhill indeed. So. What level have we currently reached so far? Level 30 and 29-27. That's pretty decent. I can go for a while here actually. I kind of enjoy reading those. And that's, by the way, last year this is kind of what I pretty much planned on doing. If I ever get to do a full Berserker run, this is what I want to do. I want to read you guys the story of the solo challenge characters. And we are almost leveling too quick. Almost, not quite. Obviously we want to eventually go on. 30,000 gold left until we are going to try the Sandworm fight. Maybe I will just finish reading the White Mage challenge instead though. Depending on what is faster, that is. Yagamoth was definitely over the hill. Yeah, you could say that. So, at Moortown awaited the tools to awaken the White Mage from the pathetic mortal to near godhood. The spells available here provided a ton of options to command what happened on the battlefield. Cure 3, now he can instantly heal himself to full on demand without elixir farming. Reflect, now White basically wields permission over what spells hit whom, including the ability to bounce his own spells to hit through enemy walls. Berserk neutralizes almost all random monsters and even some bosses, plus can be used to increase White's own damage. And then in the forest, White also claimed his wonderful Morning Star's weapon. 3 times as strong as the flail, holy crapoly. 800 damage is a miracle from heaven itself. The crystal's fight was the cake as usual for a solo character. Damage the fire crystal until it starts casting Fire 3 to collect the free healing via Flame Ring. I even had the white crystal cast Berserker on himself to extra damage on the last crystal. Oh, I even had White cast Berserk on himself for extra damage on the last crystal. Then White pulled off a victory that none of Sola's solos ever has. Thanks to Shell and well-timed reflex spells, Galuf legitimately won his solo fight against Exdef. That is actually pretty amazing. He still died though. So yeah. Well, Kryl took up the mantle of the White Mage, and her first job was an errand to Guido's cave. White needed to collect light staffs from Metamorpha enemies to break for holy spells into Exdef's elemental weakness. Fortunately, these fights were cake to win. They are vulnerable to Berserk, which cuts off all morphing shenanigans and leaves them with a weak physical attack. White would Berserk the enemy, armor herself, Berserk herself for extra damage and collect a staff a minute later. Didn't take long to turn up 2 of them, which is all we need. I did not think of this myself. Sophis mentioned it in the Realms Beyond thread. Mari the Time Mage used it too. And in Exdef's castle, I actually fought out most of the random encounters for the first time in forever. I know, well, you know those scary yellow and red blue dragons? All vulnerable to Berserk. So in the back row with armor spell on, there was no danger at all from those foes. It was a wonderful feeling to be playing the game again rather than grinding items and levels and bosses out of magic points. So let's see how much damage the holy spell in the hands of a level 64 mage deals to an enemy weak to it. Altogether now, it's over 9,000! 9,252 to be exact. White was actually under the doom clock in that screenshot. She actually could have outraced it if I'd farmed 2 more staff for Holy, but that wasn't necessary. On the second try, Exdef skipped Doom, and the 2 Holy spells got him to the less dangerous AI routine. The Reflect Ring bounced everything back at him, and White cleverly hit Exdef with Reflect spells too, in order to bounce armor and shell and Cure 3 spells off Exdef back to herself, avoiding her own Reflect Ring. So White won this fight easily. That's one way to do that. Interesting. So yeah, Exdef at the end of World 2 is actually one of the more difficult encounters for most people just playing this. As in, it is legitimately difficult. And here we have the White Mage who has struggled so far in his solo adventure, or her solo adventure in this case, just kind of knocking off everything with ease, it seems. Well then. Berserk was the answer to Antlion, locking him into only physical attacks and not the Sonic Wave debuff. Berserk also answered the Gargoyle twin bosses, preventing them from reviving each other. And White went to pretty much demolish all the encounters in the pyramid. Lots of monsters like the mummies and Lamia queens, Blood Lamia, were undead and dropped to healing staff. The scary machine heads were vulnerable to Berserk, shutting off their Surge Beam attack. So were the Zephyr Zone enemies, so no scary summon the Chimeras or Bat Dragons or other crap. I did have to skip the statue/object Dar encounter on the crystal armor chest. White could not defend against their stoning attack. But White added a lot of good equipment in the pyramid as usual. A Lamia's tiara helmet to protect against the confused status, a protect ring, a black robe armor, but the cursed ring kills you 50 seconds into the battle would be a terrible idea. Probably. White had no cheap answer to what's that name? Merugine, there we go. Berserk would not work, Confuse worked out, but she would not cast spells on herself. Reflect wasn't a good idea, as she would heal herself with the reflected spells. White had to work her down the long way with Morningstar hits, but was never in any danger with Shell 3 and Cure 3. Finally got your 4th wall ring. Congratulations, Key Paladin. That is nice. So, airship access to the 3rd world now opened up yet more top-end power for White. First, a running shoes accessory from Mirage for the oh-so-coveted permanent haste status. Also the Dispel spell and the Sage Staff from the legendary weapons. This weapon has some very unusual properties according to the algorithm's guide. It deals physical damage as magic attack, with a multiplier based on your magic power, subtracting out enemy magic defense and very conveniently ignoring physical evade. It is strong versus undead enemies with an 8 times modifier, and the same modifier as Aquarake versus desert enemies. In different situations, either the Sage Staff or the Morning Star might deal more damage. The Sage Staff generally preferred overall as a more reliable weapon without the star's miss rate. Stalker in the island's shrine killed White once, with the cheese combo of Mind Blast, HP leak, and Hurricane to drop the critical. I then figured out the right combo was to wear the running shoes and continuously refresh the wall spell to bounce Mind Blast. Spending 1 out of 3 turns on wall while hasted still created more useful turns total than not being hasted. This worked and Stalker went down in about 30 Morning Star swings. Fork Tower. The last obstacle. This was the other reason I leveled bards for the Purebolus fight. Here I can send both White Mages up on each side of the tower, truly beating every fight with a solo White Mage. The Minotaur fight was actually okay. I was a bit worried that it wouldn't take a lot of elixirs without access to the armor spell or cure 3, but he only dealt 300 damage against the back row, and that was easily out healing staffed. The Sage Staff dealt over 900 damage and ended the fight quickly. I alertedly swapped Kryl back to the Flail for the last hit, so that the healing and the Sage Staff would both be available for the Omniscient fight. But how can the White Mage beat Omniscient? Without Holy Spell, there's no way for the White Mage to deal magic damage to him. I thought that farming more Light Staff was an option in the 3rd world, but it wasn't. Guido's case still exists, but the only bottommost floor where he lives, not the floors with monsters. Magic Land doesn't work. Omniscient doesn't cast reset in response to summon magic. Well, got a loophole. He actually is vulnerable to Berserk, which shuts off his ability to reset the fight, so bards could win with a Reflect Ring and any weapons, right? Ow! Holy crap, that's one big physical attack. Dang. Do I have to do this the forever way and running him out of MP? A Reflect Ring by itself doesn't kill me. He outpaces his own reflected spells with regeneration and cure spells. Oh, by the way, Reset, which is what Omniscient casts whenever you hit him with physical spells, I believe, or anything like that, will reset the entire encounter. Straight up, you start at the beginning again as if you just started the encounter, in case you're wondering about that. Nope, this spell removes his regen status. And slowly but surely he did kill himself. I slid in a few Magic Lamp summons on occasion when he bounced a mute off-bards into himself. Sildra in particular dealt 4000 plus damage thanks to his air element weakness. And well, this was the Fork Tower. Let me drink something real quick and get back to chat for a while. So, how are you guys doing? XF has 2 routines, and the first has a lot of status effect spells. The second routine is a bunch of double attacks with lots of fire / ball / ice 3 spells. I see. Fun fact, the Steam iOS version, he can cast reset / return while under Berserk. Whoa! How did they beat him then? You're regretting not taking a nap? Naps are really nice. Did Yagamoth reach Master in the meantime? I'm not sure, let's check that real quick. Does that have any benefit, than mastering the chops, or are we just kind of curious about that? Let's see. Showing story time? Alright, thank you. Thank you, Flurry. Appreciate that. And yes, Yagamoth also has reached Berserker level master. You learn a lot of stuff from seeing solo runs? Yes, you do. I'm sorry, Hyrule. Aww. Are you in time for the Sandworm shenanigans? I'm not sure I'm going to get that there today, actually. We'll see. But I'm currently just having a bit of a story time here with the adventures of the solo White Mage. Because, I mean, this is a pretty nice thing to watch on the side. Twitch on Smart TV in bedroom? That's quite nice. You have mastered the lazy ass job. Hey, that's not a bad thing. As long as you can switch job once in a while when necessary. And also greetings to you, Square Bear. I would say we are going to go right back to story time, because I'm actually curious how this is going to go on from now. Let's see. By the way, I read these stories at some point, but I mostly forgot what it was about in the end. So, and now for the moment I've been anticipating ever since embarking on this crazy adventure. My little solo White Mage has quickened into her full powers of godhood. I needed a target worthy of White's first strike of godly, holy retribution. That will do. And he just kind of obliterated Bahamut. Holy and Flare are seen as equals, but Holy can actually crank out a lot more damage, thanks to being an element, gaining elemental up boost from the Sage Staff. The magic defense piercing of Flare never comes out ahead. The target would have to have over 120 magic defense to Flare to beat a 50% boosted Holy. Omega is the only such monster and mood because it absorbs the Holy element anyway. Holy is also twice as efficient on the MP consumption. White demolished the foes in his story falls like an angry Old Testament god, smiting the sinners of Gomorrah. She could even annihilate a Tonberry before it reached her there in the left picture. Wow. Leviathan lasted about 30 seconds against this newly ignited divine incarnation. She did even better in the Great Sea Trench, although that's nothing unusual. There's plenty of ways to abuse the undead enemies for a piggy There's plenty of ways to abuse the undead enemies. For the piggy bosses, hit them once each with the Sage Staff, 8 times damage against undead, then cure 3 to kill them all together. That is 6973, is not holy, it's the weapon. She also blew up a shield dragon just because she could, bouncing holies off her own wall. Just because she could. That's actually pretty neat. Finally, I took up the Phoenix Tower for kicks, shredding every enemy with Holy along the way. And I wanted to pick this particular fight for some revenge. White did lose once to a roulette spell, but made it all the way up and down the tower on the second attempt. Used one elixir for a magic refill, but made enough gold back to replace it at the Mirage shop. White gained one last level to 68 here, exactly as Jesse the Thief did. I felt a cosmic kinship between these two characters, as the two solos with the least offense and the most effort invested. They both grinded Cure Beast to exactly level 64 for Atmos and would finish at 68. They both faced their biggest challenge at Atmos needing to win head-on through the cosmetics unlike any other characters, and the rest of the game flew by after that. And they both had to pass on the Odin fight as the one challenge they could not win. Odin absorbs holy elements, so both Omega and Shinryu, so White isn't going there. So, into the void went White. And well, this section of the report is going to be brief because the game was brief. To entertain ourselves, who is who in that screenshot of the boss sprites? Catastrophe and Calophystery are obvious. I guess the center one must be Necrophobia, but I'm not sure which one the rightmost two is. Twinpania? Who are the others? So, Calophystery dropped in 3 holy spells. A Panda in 4, Apocalypse in 5. Just ahead of that Condemned Clock, having ignored the damage from a level 4, Graviga since White could win the next hit. Catastrophe in 4. White having enough HP to simply withstand 2 Earthshakers. Yep, those bosses were no challenge for the mighty holy spell and an over-leveled White Mage. So, Halicarnassus in 8 holies, Twintania in 6, 9999 damage hits into his elemental weakness. White ignored damage again, since the win was inevitable. Go to Overflow, you broke the game. Would be close to 15,000 without the limit. Gilgamesh in 3 hits, although apparently he can't count. The Cleft... he can't count because Spectacular Adventure just does 5. The joke is maybe a bit hard to read here because of the small picture. Gilgamesh in 3 hits, although he apparently can't count. The Cleft random encounters were actually faster to simply win with holy nukes rather than waiting to run away. Necrophobia's barriers in 2 holies each reflected off White herself after a reflect spell. Then the boss in 4 more 9,999s. Asked once to the barriers by overconfidently thinking I could skip Shell. I found it amusing how Kryl is too short to fit into the sunglasses icon for blind status. They're on her forehead and she can't see fine. Of course. 3x Death landed a white hole in the first try, in through shell status cutting its chance in half, but White beat it on the second try after white holes missed. Took 8 holy spells, no meteors launched. So, White eliminated back part of Neo X-Death with Magic Lamp, Odin as usual for a solo character, then started launching holy into the Grand Cross part. I was hoping White could deliver enough power into it to continually reset its AI routine and avoid Grand Cross or ever firing at all. Didn't work. Quite. 6 holies knocked it under 500 HP, but I timed incorrectly and it managed to launch the deadly move. Still, there's a chance to survive it. Nope. It inflicted Berserk status on White. See the red face in the picture? She actually killed the Grand Cross part immediately after by attacking while berserked. But she wasn't going to knock down the other 2 remaining parts before running out of HP. Too bad, so you need to try again. Or until Neo X-Death dispelled the berserk status for me. I fell over laughing at that one. Evil Incarnate just sealed his own end. As Sala says, you should never lose against the physical and Almagas parts. That goes double for White Mage packing armor and shell. I didn't even bother setting out the Magic Lamp's Sildra finish, because both of the parts ended up with 6000 HP left. 1 holy would kill each, and I didn't feel like working them down to Sildra range with the weapon attacks. Afterwards I realized the easiest answer, unequip the Sage Staff and make holy hit for 4000. I figured that either I could hit the timing to kill both parts with holies, or X-Death's last part would roll it's 1/3 chance to cast Meteor, or White should simply survive the meteors with Shell on. Or subconsciously, maybe I even wanted to do the fight over again, to enjoy the payoff after having invested so much into building this now godly character. The meteors did not come, and White blasted one last holy for the final victory. And so White defeated Neo X Death on the first try. Alright, let's see. And so there's the grand tell. It actually wasn't quite so hard as I might have thought. The only serious difficulty fights in terms of retrying were Carlo was, as always, Soul Cannon and Archeo Aevis. Everything else could be handled by accumulating the right supplies and levels ahead of time, Pureobolos and Atmos. The Byblos and Gilgamesh and Kudo fights each lasted over 5 hours of game time, but actually weren't difficult, just lengthy grinds to run them out of magic points. And Atmos was the last fight of any difficulty. Once you get the spells in Moor, the White Mage controls almost everything in the battlefield, and that Morningstar weapon is actually surprisingly close to a fighter's swords, and is plenty to get holy. Is plenty to get too holy. I do have to say that nuking everything with holy was a blast. Shame it was over so quickly. And I finally see the light in playing solo challenge in this game. There's just enough answers for the solo characters of a single class to be able to beat each boss. And there's a huge variety in how they do it. Okay, a few answers like the magic lamp and the reflectoring do repeat themselves, but that's a minority of situations. Restrictions breed creativity, and the solo single class is about as restrictive as one can get, while remaining both interesting and possible. And in the difficulty department, being solo character is addicting. With a full party, even Death and Stone Spell are as harmless as Mini or whatever. Just pull out an item and you're right back in business. The Final Fantasy I style party gained most of its challenge from taking that off the table. If speed is the killer strat, then 4 is the killer number of characters, collectively acting 4 times as often as a single character. Once you know the game and the jobs, you almost need to be a solo character to create any level of challenge. I do have another variant in mind, but I'm not going to steal any more of Sola's remaining solos, at least just yet. I have some interest in the Red Mage solo. He would be the opposite of the White Mage, steamroll through the first 2 worlds. He can sleep Atomos and break light staff on X-Death, and then fall off a cliff in effectiveness. Geomancer is weird enough that Solo deserves to have it. Berserker is really nigh impossible, unlike the White Mage. Mime has a hilarious solution to many boss fights. Drink 1 elixir and mimic it until the boss runs out of magic. Ha! But otherwise, the solo is a lot of boring dagger poking and rot breaking. Thanks for reading, and there will be another variant here soon. Footnote, see the Realms Beyond thread here for comments and discussion. And so this was the Solo White Mage Challenge by T-Hawk.